Right then, long overdue, but we're here now. A few delays with production, etc. But guess what? I am the production now, so we're going to keep it raw. We're going to tune in, and we're not going to mess about. So, episode 1, pilot, the Red Room. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to call it the reality check. And today, I'm going to take a deep dive, and it might, ruffle some feathers, but that's what I love to do. So there's no filter, there's no censor. So this ain't for the faint-hearted. So you've been warned. So let's talk about men, and more particularly, let's talk about weak men. What has the world come to? I don't quite understand. And that's what we're going to talk about. Weak men who are undecisive, unsuccessful. Why is that? And let's have a hard-hitting wake-up call and see what we can do to make change, to make positive change. Right, I think first things first, we're in an era now of, unparalleled opportunity. If you're, fortunate enough to be born, with, without any disabilities, you've got zero excuse to have in life, period. We should be very grateful that, we can, we've got our faculties intact, senses, we can hear, see, etc. So that's number one. And the fact that I'm even having to say this says a lot. But nevertheless, on top of that, if you're then, in a developed country such as the UK, US, anywhere sort of across Europe, there's absolutely no excuse at all. And let's sort of dive into that and sort of get into why most men are still finding, ways to not succeed in an abundance of opportunity. I think let's start off by saying a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, everyone, we grow up, well, before we get there, we're young, we want to be an astronaut, we want to be an engineer, we want to be a scientist, very sort of ambitious in what it is we want to do. And then as we sort of seem to grow into teens and into adults, those dreams of success and ambitions and aspirations just seem to diminish. And, that aspirations from a young age, they die. And the harsh reality is that is the life for 95% of men in the world. At the end of the day, they just depend on, a governed system, state support, etc. Just being, one of many, being a pawn in the society, contributing towards the economy, and always living dependent and obviously unfulfilled as well. Whereas only 5% of people are actually successful. So that says a lot, doesn't it? So if you were to look in a room, there's 20 people there, only one's going to be successful. And that's quite substantial, isn't it? I say one, that's rounding up to nearest 1%. So that speaks volumes. But I guess really, why is that? Why are so many people, stuck in this state of, dependency and, conform to a system that they don't like or agree with, yet there they are. So let's go into the case and let's do a bit more of a deep dive. So I think 9 times out of 10, if you go up to someone and say, go up to a young man, etc., what is it you want? Where is it you're going? What is it you want to do? Most of the time, they won't even know. Or if they do have an idea, I want to set up a business, I want to do a podcast, I don't know, whatever, right? They often lack the actual ability to, have the confidence in actually going ahead and taking action. And I think that's a big reason as to why, we have these results. Just looking back at my notes here, and I'm just thinking, how real should we get? And how much should we really sort of, dig in and touch some real points that, hopefully the view is to have this as a wake-up call. But I think really it's sheep behavior, isn't it? And we talked about, like the 5% of society who are doing really well and truly are successful at the level that, most men aspire to be. That's because everyone else is, like sheep, just waking up in the morning, they've got a job, 9 to 5, getting in the car, driving to work, usually putting a bit of speed on because they're running late, unfulfilled. If they have breakfast, for example, just trying to, eat it very quickly, not even getting the enjoyment for the basics in life, which obviously eating is one of them. Rushing to a job that they don't even want to be at just because they've got bills to pay and they're in that system. And then society is as such that, the majority of people, in this case, it's obviously evidence with stats and numbers, they're just like sheep. And again, when they look at each other and say, why am I successful? Or, I'm a victim of my circumstance, or it's my environment. If you're around losers or, people in the system that you don't want to be about, then that's absolutely why you're going to stay in that position. Breaking away is going to be the hardest part. And, relying on, government systems, society norms and things like that, and then complaining about it, it's not going to get you anywhere. And again, it's breaking from that sheep life, culture. And let's talk less about what people are doing wrong and where they are and why they're there, because who cares? Let's talk about the 5%. And essentially with these guys, they say what they mean and they deliver on it, whatever that looks like. So if they want to be successful in a sales role, in a business, as a family person, they know where it is they're going and they know how, they're going to get there, and they're only focused on that intention. And that sort of, simple mindset shift, in terms of like the focus, that's all it takes. And again, it's not, a magic formula or, a potion that you can drink and click your fingers and expect results. Not quite. Success is deliberate, and it's a predetermined job done with intention. And again, this is the 5% that we talk about. Think about that. That's only 5% of people are actually focused, drilled in, know where they're going, doing what they need to do, and they're consistent with it as well. There we are. So again, a lot of the sort of concerns are, competition is fierce. And as you can tell, I'm based here in the UK. I'm currently in Birmingham at the moment. And when I hit London, it just hits different. Birmingham, it's a second home for me. And I like the vibe. It's where I live. It's where I do business. But when I'm in London, London Bridge, Canary Wharf, Bankside, it just hits different. The culture, you can just sense the hustle culture. You've got all these different nationalities, people from different parts of the world. They've come in and had the want, and you can just feel that energy. And that's what I love when I go to London. So absolutely, competition is fierce. And, at the start, we talked about, having your health, and then obviously being at an advantage, being at, a developed country. You should be steps ahead, yet you could go to the capital and you can see that, the diversity of successful people, there's more of a mix there. A lot of people want it a lot more who don't have it. So that's something to think about as well. But irrespective of that, forget the competition. There is no competition. All you need to do is focus on yourself and create your own opportunities. You don't need to worry about what this guy is doing, what they're doing over there, how this business is doing. That's irrelevant. That's just a distraction. Just create your own opportunity. And then, you can build on it and just drive it. A lot of the times what happens is when you focus on people or other things, you're not focused on yourself. If I was driving on the motorway, 120, top speed, cruising, flying, if I got a car next to me who's looking to pull over or get in front or, move around, if I take my focus off the wheel, I'm gonna hit something, right? I'm gonna crash. And that's basically, what other individuals are doing. Rather than driving the car, and being in the driver's seat and getting to where they need to get to at the speed they want to get there, they just get distracted by what's happening here, who's pulling up over there, and you lose focus. And then it's different and it's deliberate. So deliberate is key. You've got to be deliberate. And again, not to say that there's not hard workers. There's absolutely plenty of hard workers. But the bottom line is, if you haven't got anything to show for it, it doesn't matter. And it's not, I'm sure we've all heard of the saying, it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. Put it together. Work hard, but be smart in how you work. That, again, will help with the ambition and the drive of getting, to the goal, whatever that looks like to you. Let me give you an example just to break it down even more. Think of it like you're a pilot, right? You have a crew, a co-pilot, etc., stewards, someone to fetch your coffee, water, etc. Before you get off the ground, if you've got a plan, where to get to, where there's going to be bad weather, how to navigate the turbulence, which sense of direction you want to get to. Once you're in the sky, right, 99% of the time, right, you'll follow that plan and you'll land at your destination, right, and you'll land safely. And the interesting part is, even when you're in the sky, right, I assume, the majority of you have either watched a YouTube video of aeroplanes or been on an aeroplane yourself, but you can't see the destination. And when you get to a certain altitude, or even if you're crossing the ocean, you don't know, it's all the same, right? But again, it just shows that, flying with a plan, in this case, it doesn't matter if you can't see the end line, the finish line, the goal, right? You will get to your destination. Whereas, the challenges with people who are, trying to fly, they've got no crew, they've got no plan. The reality is, they're not even going to get off the runway. They're going to be stuck there, dead weight, without direction. And that's a really good analogy of how most men sort of navigate life, lost and stuck on the ground. Right, so moving on then. So think about mentality as well. So as cliche as it sounds, we are what, we do become what we think. And the majority of men are stuck in this cycle of negativity. And again, it's very sort of much focused on the problem rather than the solution. And I think what we forget is our brain is the most powerful computer in the world. I know some smart ass is going to try and come back and say, well, we've got processors that can calculate this and calculate that. A computer can't put itself together. It takes a human, right? It takes a man to build that. And then obviously from there, it can be developed. If you take away the human, there's no machine. So factor that in. But like a computer, you can program in your brain. And it's a choice, isn't it? You can either program it with positivity. You can be results driven. You can, be a slave to good habits, right? And behaviors. Or, achieve your dreams. Or you can program it to be a loser, feel depressed, lost, just like, the 95% out there. And it's down to you which one you choose. It's a brain, right? Either program it in a positive way or a negative way. And again, this isn't anything, revolutionary. This is, for me, it's common sense. But again, it's a wake-up call. There we go. A bit more echo, a bit more sound. Wake up! But anyway, let's move on to more examples then. So if we look at I've talked about some basic fundamentals of mindset and, principles and things like that. But even if you date back to, early religion, I'm not going to touch upon any religion as such, but religion in general, if you look at any religious book, right, doesn't matter what you believe, right, it will say there, right, that men can achieve anything that they believe in that extent, give or take a few different words. But essentially, whatever a man believes, they can achieve. And that's, the greatest law in the universe. And as simple as it sounds, that's all it needs to be. So if you believe that you can achieve greatness, you absolutely will. Whereas if you have a negative approach, you're absolutely going to get negative results. So the basics is just positivity, isn't it? Think about getting positive results, believe in that process, and then obviously success will soon follow. Right. So again, sometimes we have situations where men will come up and say, they're a victim of their circumstances, their environment, um, and whatever that might look like. Um, Rather than actually taking control, as men, we can, be affected by a situation or we can affect the situation. It's different perspectives, isn't it? But it's easier to have that victim mentality and, being paralyzed by like fear and worry. Because it's easy, isn't it? I wasn't successful because I couldn't be bothered to get out of bed and do anything up until lunchtime and live a life of a dosser or whatever. That's easy. And, most people don't want to work hard and make those sort of initial sacrifices. But again, it's how you program the brain, isn't it? Lazy attitude, staying in bed. When the sun rises, you should be up. When the sun goes down, you should then switch off. It's the universe isn't that complicated. Humans, we complicate, and we have the greatest gift, and we also have the greatest curse. So think about that. The brain, your mind will basically return what you put in. So if you plant in positive seeds, planting the seeds of wealth, you'll grow money trees. If you plant poison and negativity, you're gonna get toxicity, aren't you? So the choice is yours in terms of which way you want to go. Option A, think right, goal driven. These are my deliverables. This is what I need to do, the actions, time frame, etc. Focus on that. You're gonna get good results, right? Versus focusing on the BS, circumstances, environment, whatever that looks like. That's all you're gonna manifest, and you're gonna be in that mindset. And also as well, like when people talk about depression, and obviously we'll save this for another video, but ultimately, reason why people get stuck in that cycle is your brain. You get a dopamine hit, right? Albeit not from a good input, but essentially there's a sense of feeling, no different than smoking a cigarette momentarily, where you'll just feel a sensation, and that comes from a negative place, right? Negative self-talk, and you're trying to evoke your own self-emotion and whatever, and that's just where you get, and your brain gets used to that sensation, and that's why you have to keep reminding yourself to feel that something, even though that something is not worth the feeling. But again, easy option, isn't it? Easy option. So a few things to think about there, right? And shifting, the mindset makes such a massive difference. And the bottom line is, men can't make that decision, right? Do I want to live in this pocket or that pocket? Do I want to have quality of life, or do I want to be complacent? It's, on paper, it's an easy decision. It should be a certain way, 10 times out of 10. But that's the world we live in, and that's, the price that you pay. It's the quality of your life. And, if you don't have any sort of, desire for, quality of life, then so be it. It's not going to affect me at all. But something I want you guys to think about. And, the funny thing is, a lot of people struggle making that decision. But at the end of the day, there's no cost, to get started. A lot of people, dig their hands in their pockets for things that are not even, mandatory, just novelty BS. You can waste a lot of money doing unmeaningful things. Yeah, in terms of setting yourself back on track and on a positive path, that's obviously going to help everything in terms of your body, your mind, your family, etc. All these things, there's no cost. It's essentially free, which is the most interesting thing from humans and their psychology. Right, so let's just shift the tone a bit, and let's talk about how we can turn things around, because that's the bottom line, isn't it? It's interesting to note that, you know, most men, right, they only use 10% of their brain's capacity. 10%. That's insane, isn't it? And I think what you need to do is start off with, ask yourself what it is you want. Is that, you know, being a better employee, a better salesperson? Did you want to be wealthy, a public figure, better family? You know, whatever that looks like, figure that out. And that shouldn't be more than a 2-minute conversation. And then you should start planting that seed in your mind, and just watch it manifest. The laws of nature are undeterred, and, you know, you're not going to be able to go against that, and either work with it or against it. Yeah, so moving on. So people that are stuck in, like depression and anxiety, you're fundamentally trapping yourself in a destructive mindset. And ultimately, you are where you want to be. If you're on the streets, for example, that's where you want to belong. If you're on like a yacht or a private plane, again, that's because you made it happen. So the two extremes is just that. I don't feel sorry for anyone, all right? You are where you belong. You are where you're supposed to be, and you're in control of that. You're responsible for your wins. You're responsible for your losses. You're responsible for your successes. You're responsible for your failures. City centre where I'm based, there's drug addicts everywhere, right? I look at them, zero pity. They'll ask for a few quid. Yeah, it is a few pound these days, not a bit of change, but that's fine, that's cool. They wouldn't, take that money, get clean clothes, food, etc., get some shelter. They'll just get Class A, and obviously the rest is what it is. And that's what they'd rather be. They'd rather be in that state of mind. And so be it. So with that being said, just going back to my analogy earlier, controlling your mind is like flying a plane. You're in the cockpit, and you can either soar like the mind was designed to, or you can crash into the ocean or a mountain, or even just destruct in the sky. You essentially need an iron mind and not to give up. The only thing we know for sure is time will pass, and whether you decide to go on the two routes of, right, I'm going to aim for positivity, success, working on, this route, or whether you go the negative, complacent, depressive, anxious route, whichever option you go, time's going to pass for sure, and it's up to you which pocket you want to see yourself in. Right, so again, we're just going to close off for now. A lot of points for you guys to think about. A reality check. Again, Red Room pilot episode. We'll follow up with some more. Just waiting on some production people to come around and set up a few bits, and we can start to put some cool intro and outros and some effects, or maybe we'll just keep it raw. But nevertheless, the whole point of this video was just to strike a nerve and to get a touch point and make people feel like, as a man, why you're not where you want to be, why you're not successful, why you're a loser. The answer, we know the answer. We talked about the answer. It's because that's what you want to be. Successful people are only successful because they want to be. People who are unsuccessful are only unsuccessful is because that's where it is they want to be. Just want to make that very clear and very certain. So hopefully you've taken the positive, and that's the route. If you are in this pocket, let's turn it around. Take control, make bold moves, join the 5%. You can win at life. But again, let's wrap things up for now, and then we'll talk more next time.